I'll be there.
Just no more than 30.
You can't have 40 there as long as you don't discuss business.
I know, but it's all about the perception.
You don't want about it. All
right, David, take control.
No, I heard about it. Oh,
yeah, good luck.
After last night, show it how.
Just how meetings should be run.
No, it's not.
Or not. Good evening.
good evening.
It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, August 22nd. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for Celebration Residential Owners Association. Let's start with owner's comment period. I see two that have indicated they want to speak. PJ Cartwright and Eileen Barr. PJ's coming up first.
With gifts.
Called my name first.
I called your name first. You may speak first. Welcome, PJ.
Hello, my name is PJ Cartwright. I live at 1000 Via Capri, number 102. I am here as a resident, not as a committee member. One of the things that everyone says when you ask them, what do you love most about living in Celebration? What do you hear most often? The lifestyle. Everybody likes the lifestyle. They like the special events, the activities that we have. This is like our activities. You have some little ones, you know, maybe Food Truck Fridays, and you have some bigger ones, like the Fall Festival, and then you have some special events that are traditional. And so when you put them all in the year, and you try and get them in the box, and you try and get everything done, it's sort of full. And so when you come around, and you want to add a really special event, guess what? They don't fit. And so the budget that you are going to be voting on in just 3 weeks is not going to be able to accomplish that. However, if you let the committee, who has worked long and hard at coming up with a list of activities for the town, take the budget that we're asking for, which, by the way, is 50 cents a week per home. I don't know about you, but you can't buy a donut for 50 cents. You can't buy a cup of coffee, and Lord knows I cannot go to Starbucks and get my latte for 50 cents. I can't even save for a whole week at that. So if we put in a super duper event, and then we open it up and we say, oh, but what about the traditional events, like the father-daughter dance, and oh, maybe the Easter egg hunt. And oh yes, then we have some little events. We've got some Food Truck Fridays that we got to scatter in here. And then we have other events like the Fall Festival and a Holiday Fest. And oh yes, don't forget the 10 concerts that we're going to add. Oh yes, and then we've got another special event that your special events committee would like to. By the way, the glitter and all of this, that isn't paid for by the CROA budget. That's paid for generally from the budget caused by the volunteers' personal bank accounts. That's why we all lie to our husbands. So when you put this all together, and you shake it all up, you're going to find, because I did this twice at home, so I know it works, that if you put all of these together and you shake it up and you let it shake and you shake and you shake and you shake. Oh yes, there's room for that one. Oh, let's do a little more shaking and let's massage that budget a little bit more. And guess what? Everything will fit in the container, and this is the full lifestyle of Celebration. So I want you to remember this when you go to vote on the proposed budget next month for the Special Events Committee.
I won't forget.
Because
I love it.
I just want everyone at home to know which of these sparkly balls do you want out of your community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very effective.
Thank you, PJ. I know there's comments, and
I just got one. That's not how it worked when I moved houses.
I thought the most important thing to residents was CROA.
I'm going to respectfully ask Patrick and JR to get some footage of that we can play on Budget Workshop Day. Or at least just one picture blowing up of whatever screenshot you like.
I think I want PJ to do the budget workshop.
I'm glad to hand it over to PJ.
Jackson's had a motion. I don't know if Eileen still wishes to speak or not.
I was speaking on a totally different topic, but
No props.
But no.
Okay.
I told you, though, that glitter was important to this committee. Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. And I just want to follow up on something that really made a big impression on me. I think about 2 or 3 years ago, there was like 12 candidates all running for the CROA board, and they were sitting there, and the question was, what's the most important thing to you about living in Celebration? The first person who answered, there's probably 8 people at the forum, 8 candidates at the forum, said, special events. Every single person after that said special events. So that's my addition to that. Just remember how important it is. I'm here to speak about the newspaper. I did get a chance to look at the sample. I thought it was wonderful. And I certainly cast my vote for it. But I understand there's a possibility that you're going to be staying with the traditional, the way we always done it, which I'm not sure is the best way to do planning for the future, but okay. But what I really would like to say is that whichever format we go with, I hope that the board takes very seriously, particularly if we stay with what we're doing now when we have to hire somebody, that person who's hired really looks at the paper and understands what we need to do to make it what we need it to do, to get out the messages, to carry the stories that really are pertinent at the time. And it's, hopefully we're not just going to hire somebody who's just going to do some selling of advertising, but maybe we could get somebody who also really understands how to get as much out of the newspaper as possible in terms of getting the story out.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you for your point. Any other owner comments? Anyone who may not have checked? One announcement about owner comments. At the last board meeting, I made a mistake and allowed continual owner comments like we do during our workshops now. So this is the time for owner comment period, and from this point forward, we move into board business. So one last call for owner comments for tonight. Okay. Thank you. So can we verify that the meeting's been properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. And can we verify quorum?
Yes, you do.
Great. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll formally call the meeting to order. Can we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Jack. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Vaughn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes. I know we've had modifications on minutes. Steve, you look like you're going to say something.
No.
Susan.
All the modifications that were requested have been made and are in your packet.
Okay, so we have a revised board packet, and those minutes will be updated online for anyone to see, not just board, but the entire community to see by tomorrow, as I understand. Thank you, Rachel. We have a motion to approve all 4 sets of minutes. That's board workshop on July 2nd, board workshop on July 16th, regular board meeting on 7/25, and then the CROA revised regular board meeting from June 27th. That was second. Okay, that was Debbie seconded by Brian. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Committee reports. Start with ARC.
Hello,
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Nathaniel. I'm an ARC committee member. Just got a couple of quick bullet points for you. So we had 112 applications that were reviewed by the ARC in July. 104 were approved and 8 were declined. The top ARC requests in July were security devices, we had 21, painting of exterior, we had 17, and roofing, we had 15. Our new committee member, Nicole, attended her first meeting Monday night, and we're very thankful to have her fulfill our team. So, great selection there, great pickup. If residents have any questions regarding the application process or need assistance in compiling their application package to the ARC for review, please reach out to Community Standards. Ms. Tony will take good care of you at Town Hall, and they'll be happy to assist. Thank you for keeping Celebration beautiful. Looks great out there.
I attended that meeting, and they did a great job. I mean, the attention to detail, when a resident brings in these drawings, I mean, they really, they make suggestions which really help the people. Sometimes, instead of rejecting it, they make suggestions and have them come back with some changes. And they did a great job with the people that...
Marvelous. Thank you.
That were online.
And I also attended. I thought you guys did a good job, too. You guys got a backlog or anything, or are you guys in good shape now? That's my question.
I think we're in good shape now. We're all fulfilled. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, we're certainly there to help. We have a lot of design experience that we put together, so I'm glad we can help everybody out.
I know that this is an old item that the committee was asked to look at with some design guidelines about hurricane shutters or hurricane equipment. Is that still in process? Tony's saying yes. Okay, so I know we're in the middle of hurricane season, but just so some proactive guidelines that might be helpful for people who want to go that way. But that's in process.
Yes.
Anything else for Nathaniel?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice
Thanks
evening.
for your service.
Absolutely.
Covenants, Stephen?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Stephen Fromfelder, Chairman of the Covenants Committee. In July, we had approximately 700 inspections and re-inspections were conducted on single-family and service area homes. This also included inspections of Spring Lake. We had 30 resale and follow-up inspections, and we had 206 new and completed ARC projects that were also reviewed by our inspectors. 200 emails were sent for minor items, and approximately 56 letters were sent for major items or multiple minor ones. 13 properties were reviewed at the monthly June meeting. 8 of those proposed fines were rejected by the committee. 5 of the proposed fines were tabled, and we had 0 proposed fines that were confirmed. Also, as usual, I have to do my public announcement that the inspectors continue to drive through the community, conducting routine inspections approximately every 6 weeks, and we have reference materials in the NEVs with the inspectors. If you have any questions, the Community Standards team is also ready to work with you here at Town Hall, and should you get a notice, we encourage that the homeowners get in contact with Town Hall representatives as quickly as possible so that they can assist you with timelines, applications, and maintenance plans. Again, thank you very much for everybody and their hard work in keeping Celebration looking beautiful. I have one other item that I'd like to bring up, though. I'd like to commend our support staff, Ms. Tony Kaffner, and the support that she's been providing to not only the Covenants Committee but ARC, because she's been doing that on her own for, what, 2 months? For the last 2 months. And she's been doing an outstanding job pulling both those committees, and that's a lot of work. So if you have an opportunity besides a thank you and an atta girl, we would appreciate that. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
I just want to, Steve, thanks for your comments at that town hall meeting that we had about the dumpster ordinance. As you know, at the CDD meeting last night that we were at.
I apologize for not attending.
Well, okay, not we then. I think there were 5 of us there, I think. But I think that was tabled before they even started the meeting because they heard from CROA and you.
Okay.
And it just wasn't going to
sit
well with us.
I felt that as the Covenants Committee chairman that I needed to ensure that we, be it the committee and its support staff, were not signed up for something that's not in our mission statement. So I didn't want that to happen.
I mean, in effect, this is an unfunded mandate, isn't it? I mean, it would take more time and energy and volunteers on your part?
No. What was in the ordinance was the fact that they were proposing, or the proposal in a long time written draft let's say, of a document said that permitting for the placement of a dumpster on a public road or a portable storage container for a period of time needed to be permitted through the covenants coordinator of the CROA.
Right.
The issue with that is that we are not a governmental entity.
Right.
And I'm not a lawyer, but just going down the road, I felt that if we issued a permit, then the homeowners association could conceivably be held, in some sort of liability for saying, well, I was given a permit and somebody drove into it. So, but, the road belongs to the county. This is county code enforcement and those.
So we're going to get into... Go ahead.
Just to follow up, just to be clear, and I think you're actually right about that, Steve. But if we were in the business of issuing those permits, wouldn't it take additional time and resources to do that?
Yes, it would. I've been asked to attend your budget workshop because I have some concern. I have some perceptions. We've been working inside of the Covenants Committee itself to try to come up with some metrics to show what the support staff is, what they've been asked to do in the number of inspections and as to the number of houses that have to be done, emails, the actual letters, the follow-ups, the re-inspections, and all of that. I have right now a perception that we are short-staffed.
Right.
That's my perception. I don't have the data right now. The committee is working on that, and we will make a presentation to you.
Is that perception reflected in the budget?
I would not say that it is now.
Okay.
So that'll be part of our budget workshop.
Right. And I think the further point to all of this is that for any other entity like CCD to impose an ordinance or a proposed ordinance or a plan that would create additional burdens and costs on us unless we had agreed to it doesn't make much sense. And so I appreciate the fact that CCD pulled it off the table, but I think it should be clear as a precedent that we don't get to impose costs on CCD and they don't get to impose costs on us, which is what this would have done.
Yes, it would have been a new mission that we would have been in the business of issuing permits. And as the way that it was written, the way that I interpreted it was that it was for all of the confines of Celebration. It was not just the residential areas.
So we're going to have a detailed discussion about all of this at our October 1st workshop. Okay. So I've already put that on the agenda. Kevin's point with the authority or the request of the board from Monday's workshop when we were all apprised of this to CDD was to not move this forward without our involvement because we had not discussed this. Right. This was introduced 4 years ago. This board has not discussed this.
And if that's on for October 1st, if you are available, I'd love to see if you're available on October 1st to come to that workshop when we discuss.
Monday, October 1st, 9:30.
I will look at my not-so-cluttered calendar.
I understand.
We'll make sure that we have an invitation going to you.
Okay.
For that.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions?
Anything else for Covenants?
Thank you.
You can just tell he's a U.S. Army colonel because he used the word mission a couple minutes ago.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Looking for a report. No. Let's go to dog park if we may. Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Stelleg. I'm here to represent the Dog Park Committee. An update on what we've been working on. The committee has made recommendations for updating the registration process, rules and regulations, and some signage, which are coming to the board for your September meeting. We are also in the process of creating an enforcement policy for those rules and how they would be implemented, and that'll come to you at a later date. And we are in the process of creating an incident form that residents could use to report any aggressive behavior of dogs or any violation of those rules. Questions?
Thank you. Just a comment on that. You're suggesting that this would come to us for a September meeting. I'm going to propose that this not come for a September meeting and that we have this on our October workshop, which is our real next discussion. Otherwise, it comes to the board only in written form and no dialogue before the September meeting when we meet face-to-face. And I think that the general sense is when we have something that we need to discuss it ideally in a workshop format. So if that timing is unless
That'd
that
be fine.
causes some concern, I would propose that it could come to the board for the October meeting. Steve, unless you see some other issue there?
No,
I think that's
that's your prerogative
Unless
to have
someone
a discussion on it.
wants to fast track this or have another workshop.
No, I do have a question, though.
Thank you.
Maureen, you mentioned the enforcement policy, and in your minutes, it says that you agreed to get legal advice. Two questions. One, what's that legal advice with respect to, and two, have you gotten it?
We have gotten it, and it was with respect to whether or not we could use as a policy to either suspend or to revoke somebody's park privileges if they were to violate certain regulations and rules.
Steve, can you speak to that?
Is that dog park privileges or all park?
Dog park privileges only.
But it does apply to all parks, and you do have the authority to do that.
Okay, and that was the question that your committee had?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
So that will be spelled out in your proposed procedures or
yeah.
regulations or?
Yes.
Okay, good. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
I know you've been hard at work on this,
Yes, we have.
and that's important work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know Dory's part of that.
Thank you.
And is PJ on the committee?
Eileen is also.
Eileen, okay. Recreation Committee. Recreation?
You're on the dog park committee too. We just wanted to recognize Eileen.
That's what I was recognizing, the dog park committee. But now this is recreation.
Recreation. Dory Moyer, I'm on the committee. One resolution put forth for the Parks and Recreation Committee was to work with management for the implementation of the recreation program plan to ensure the highest quality of recreation programs and services offered in Celebration. Prior to the establishment of the Parks and Rec Committee, the Parks and Recreation Task Force spent a good part of the year with various committed residents and under the direction of Steve Waring and the literary expertise of David Anderson to develop the Parks and Recreation Program Plan, which, amongst other things, has the the standards, minimum standards for youth sports and other programming. The ultimate goal of the current committee has been to review the current programs, understand the needs of the community, and to try to step up the level of programming in all categories as needed. The committee and the department has also established a needs assessment plan, and then they created RFPs for programs with multi-participants, such as swimming, tennis, and gymnastics, so that we could make sure that we were getting the highest level that actually would meet the needs for the community. And since April, the committee has reviewed and recommended to the CROA board renewing many existing programs and multiple first-time programs or recreational activities. The program and league requirement process has become rather detailed, and I think it's probably the best that it's been since I've been working on that, which is many years. And the way it goes, it's pretty much a 7-part process. So if someone is interested in starting a new program, what they do is they come, they fill out a registration form. That registration form goes to the Parks and Rec Department. The Rec Department brings it to the committee. The committee reviews it. Do we need this program? Do we need another piano program? Do we need another fitness program? If yes, we think that we want to hear, then they come back to the next meeting and they do a verbal presentation. And they also bring what the costs are going to be, what size room, what facility they need. If the committee decides that this sounds like a great new program, then what they do is we determine if there's space availability, and then it goes and once it's approved by the committee, then it goes to the CROA board. The CROA board then, I'm sorry, I missed one step. Then they go back to the department and management, and they fill out, and the management takes them through a 12-page contract, which tells them the yays and nays of all the things they can do and cannot do. And then once that process is completed and they decide that they want to take this next step forward, it comes to the CROA board. Right, Steve? I have it. Sorry. And then the CROA board either says yes or no, and we proceed from there. And once it's approved, then they go back with management and set up the time frames and structure and so on and so forth. Then the management also goes back and does spot check checks. They don't know when they're coming, and then they have a form and they fill it out. Do they have the number of coaches they say? Do they have more students than they mentioned? If not, they have to put that down. And then they go through and evaluate them. So it's an evaluation process through the year. Maybe once, maybe twice. Then they go back and after that, a survey is sent out. A survey is sent out to the coaches, and the coaches evaluate management and said, how the fields look, how's the equipment, what's the room like, do we have what we need? And then also it goes to those who are participating, and they get to say, I love the program, I wish they had more instructors, and that's evaluated. So it's a big process, and this is done throughout the year for each and every program that has been approved. And that pretty much sums it up. So I just thought you'd let know.
Dory, when the Recreation Committee met and we talked about the spot checks and the evaluations,
right.
Part of the discussion was that those spot checks would be then consolidated and sent to CROA board members to review.
Yes.
Is that still the plan?
Yes, I met with Nikki and met with Steve, and it's going to be brought back to the next meeting. And what we're going to do is what I was going to ask you tonight, and we talked about this with Steve, is to decide, would you like a yearly summary? Would you like it twice a year? Would you like it quarterly on each program? Because anything that you want can be supplied, and we can do it in a, pretty much a one-page sheet to say, here are the programs that are ongoing. Here's the checks that we've done. It's pretty much up to you how much paperwork you want, because otherwise each one could give you about this much paperwork. So
you renew these once a year, right?
Right.
So if you only do it twice a year, one's going to be just before the renewal date, so maybe quarterly.
And actually, Nikki's
quarterly. Is that what you?
Well, I'm just thinking if you do one mid-contract and then the next one is at the end of the contract, it's going to have to be before to decide whether or not you're going to.
Let me jump in here a second. We did discuss this. And we are getting to capacity where we don't have any more space. And what Nikki was saying that she'd like to do is to start with a one-time, everybody gets renewed at the same time. And the cycle will go like that. Now, there will be, every so often, one might drop out and we can add.
No, go ahead.
But basically that's.
My recommendation is I like the idea of everything being done a renewal at one point in time, but if you renew them at January 1, I think to respect your time also we ought to do it twice a year, but we ought to do it at April 1 and 10/1, because then
every 4 months.
Because then you've got 2 off-period reviews, and then after the 10/1, that ought to lead right into the January 1 renewal.
And so to me, that makes it fair to the people, because I know some of them are pretty. Well, I know a lot of people are pretty busy with other things going on too, so that manages time, but also the staggering there is right before renewal.
That's a good point.
Okay, we'll make that recommendation to the committee and to the department to try to coordinate that.
Would it be 9/1, in fact?
You said
if they're all going to be effective at January 1, then do it at 4/1 and 10/1. Do the
when we get to that ultimate goal.
Yeah, and I like the one date type approach.
Right, but that's what they're going to try to do, but it's hard to say how that's going to work out. And just the final thing is we did take all the we have numerous new programs and some of the existing programs, and at the Food Truck Friday, we had the room set up, the activities room up, and each one had a table so that residents could come in and they could listen to what the program is about, get brochures, and what was really nice was to see that those who have programs talk to each other and said, how's this working, what do you think? And so they were able to network. So it was a great networking, and I talked to a couple of the people that did come and participate. We had a pretty full turnout. Said they loved it and wouldn't even mind doing it twice a year, just so that new people as they come to different food trucks, some come to certain ones and some other locations, that they really enjoyed that. So. And hats off to the department again for setting that up for the committee and everything.
Good, David. So, one other item that we talked about at Recreation Committee, in that booklet that you've got, starting on page 17 or 18, there are 4 pages of fairly detailed rules and regs and standards that we are going to hold these programs accountable for.
Correct.
the request was made of counsel for CROA as to whether or not publishing those increased our liability. In other words, once we've set those out as standards, are we obligated to those standards in a different way than if we had never published them? I read the response back from the lawyer, and he was answering a different question. He didn't actually answer that specific question. So by way of tonight's meeting, I would like to ask management to go back to the attorney and answer the specific question, which is, do those 4 pages of rules and regulations heighten the liability of CROA because we are setting forth specific standards as compared to generalized statements of aspirational literary quality? You understand what I'm saying, Steve?
I do, but when I read it, it sounded like he was saying in there that not only does it not set you up at a higher level of liability, but it's a responsibility of the CROA board to ensure safety and those types of things.
If that's really what he's saying, I'd like him to just say that.
You want to just clarify to that? Okay.
Yeah, so I just have one thing, Steve. As we move along here on our community center, we're going to need to survey the community, and I think the Recs Committee is going to be important in this, unless I'm mistaken here, as far as getting some input as to space needs for these different things that are being put on, and maybe we could start getting some input on that end of it, and start now with this, and then go ahead. I'm sorry.
What we had said we were going to try to do was actually update the whole Parks and Rec master plan starting early next year. So I think that fits really into that, because we had talked at past board meeting and the workshop before that, where we actually were going to come out and say, let's go through the process we went through before and everything, so that we, just as we're updating the charter, we're going to update that so that we really get into the space needs and stuff like that.
If that's included, yeah, I think we need to do that.
So to me, there's 2 different spin-offs on that, and this will go right into the updating. One is be thinking about requests that might have come your way if we had the space. Not just the type of space, like there may be types of spaces which we do not have.
Correct.
Which will be instructive to us. The other goes to Mattamy and Island Village, because they are in the beginning phases of thinking about what sorts of amenities might be there. So there may be some spaces there that are not available anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Just a thought. Yeah. Just a thought as the Island Village folks and Mattamy are thinking about what are they going to do.
Yeah. And you don't want the overlap, but you want it to be
we might want overlap and we might not. So it's just, these are just
things to think about.
Other directions that help populate the new plan.
Additional volume of people as well that are going to be coming in maybe to these events that are being held.
Yeah. Anything else on this? Thank you for your service and for your comments. Special events. Who's representing special events?
The glitter's coming back?
Not the ball.
I thought you already did yours.
No, that was me as me. This is me today. This is no fluff, and I'll stick to the script. I'm going to give you, on behalf of the special events, the events coming up for the next 3 months, October, November, December. Fall Fest is scheduled for October 20th at Lakeside Park. Our vendor applications are now available for those interested in being part of the event. The full details of the day are available online, but some of the highlights include Squawk the Bird show, the costume contest, and we will have 2 performances by Off Kilter, which is a crowd favorite, and they bring their own
audience.
Groupies, I should say. The fall porch and yard sale is October 6th, and residents can register for placement on the map at Town Hall. And then you get your name on the map, your location on the map, and what you're selling. A code to what you're selling. Founders Day weekend is coming up November 9th and 10th. As previously announced, on Friday night, we will be hosting a family festival at Lakeside Park, followed by Mac McAnally in concert. On Saturday, our activities include the Veterans Day Parade, the Veterans Ceremony, the town photo, and for those in the audience watching or listening or reading the minutes, if you're new to the community, every year they take a photo of those who come down and have their photo taken, so everyone knows, and it sort of marks it. It's a highlight. I always stand in the same spot and wear the same shirt so that I can always find myself when I'm looking. And speaking of the picnic that day, the picnic will be catered by Four Rivers for the barbecue picnic. They go on sale this Friday at 9 a.m. Tickets are $5 and can be purchased by residents either at Town Hall or online. Starting in October, we are returning Food Truck Friday to Lakeside Park, and we intend to remain there throughout the spring. October will also see the return of movies on the Great Lawn at Lakeside, with cinematic features scheduled for October 12th, November 17th, and December 1st. Now, December 1st is going to be a big, that's a big day. So you need to save the date, because Town Hall will also host the Holiday Fest. For those who are new to the community, this gives children who are born and raised in Florida and never seen ice and snow a chance to come out and actually see that and play in the snow. And this year promises to provide plenty of frozen fun. And you'll know why I say frozen fun when you get there and see it, both inside and out. Also in December, on December 5th, we are very fortunate to be able to host the Stars and Promises Holiday Concert. I believe it's called the Junk Band's Christmas. That's the name of their concert this year. It's going to be on the Great Lawn. And this is open to all homeowners in the community. We will have reserved tables. For the fee for a reserved table has been designated to go to a charity. As of today, over 50 of the tables have been reserved. There's still a few available, but they won't last long. You're free to bring your own chair and table, but I'm telling you, you need to get there because it's going to be awesome. Staff and members of the Special Events Committee have been busy planning and prepping for this event, and we hope that it will be a very memorable evening for everyone. But that is a super event, and with the exception of a private closed party in South Florida, this will be the only event in Florida for this group, and they're they're known all over the nation. You can go online and check out Stars and Promises. Any question? Jack?
PJ, I would ask you to reiterate the ticket information regarding the barbecue, because there is a cutoff and there may not be availability of food.
That is correct. Everyone needs to make a reservation and buy their $5 tickets. This is a change from past years. We've done ticket sales before, but the reason for this is we need to know how much. We want everyone to be able to be served, but my grandma used to tell me, if you don't have any skin in the game, what's a free ticket? The year we went to got to have a ticket, everybody took tickets plus how many maximum they could get, and we paid for more food than we needed. So now everybody buys a ticket for $5, and I don't know about y'all, but when I go to Four Rivers, it costs me way more than $5 for a barbecue. Mm-hmm. So tickets go on sale this Friday, and I encourage everyone to buy the tickets. Pardon? Yeah. It's actually cheaper than a latte.
And what is the end date for the tickets?
November 2nd.
So we're changing your middle name to $5 instead of free?
Yeah, it's not free anymore. Yeah, it's free, except for you got to give me $5 to make. It's actually, the food is free, the chair and the presents and the whole thing is free. Yeah, the serving.
Questions for
Yes,
PJ?
Dave.
Question? No.
I don't think so, but yeah, two things really quick. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Second, I wanted to say, last year I remember this whole thing being a debacle when it came down to extra tickets, timeline, all that stuff, so thank you for pushing on that. It is subsidized, so Brian, that's going to drive you crazy in the back of your head. But one thing that personally drove me a little crazy last year was when I did go, I loved it. I talked to our team that was working it, JR's team that was working it. I would like to see the board allow each team member that is working it to at least get some lunch. I think they're really important part of the community. And if we're going to subsidize for everybody, I'd like to make sure that at least the individuals working the event can get some food, not just the scraps. So that's one thing. Second question, on the fall festival side.
Yes.
For non-residents, double check, Steve, could you help me out? $5 for children, $10 for adults. Is it a flat $10 for non-residents?
It's a flat $5 for adults, children, non-residents, it's a $5 fee.
Is that okay, or is there that minimum $10?
The residents aren't paying anything for the Fall Festival, so it's just a $5 fee for folks that are not residents.
Okay, I always thought there was a minimum of a $10 difference. That's what I'm trying to make sure.
Yeah, and that's for the recreation programs. This is a special event. It kind of falls a little bit on the outside of that.
That's fine. As long as I wanted to make sure I understood the difference. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else for PJ? Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Artisan Park, do we have any report?
Just a quick note. You'll see it in your board pack that one of the areas of interest in Artisan Park has to do with a playground and bringing a playground back in, or bringing one into Artisan Park. They will be attempting to bribe Todd on a regular basis to make that happen. In any event, there was a formal motion by the Artisan Park Committee that indicated that there is support of the community for a playground in Artisan Park, and asking us to continue to consider that and evaluate it. I know that one of the questions that came up was, could we use some of the playground equipment that's being replaced in other locations? Todd, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that equipment has to be demolished and destroyed because of safety reasons and can't be reused. Is that accurate?
You are correct. You wouldn't want to take on that liability. Even though it was still within the community, we're getting rid of the equipment for a reason. That's because of age, it's certification. A lot of the standards changed in 2008. So as you move forward, you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date equipment with all the latest safety standards.
Okay. So I think as we start thinking about the recreation master plan, the playground is on that list, and it would have to include new equipment as well as the location and the land and the other pieces. But there is a clear wave of support in Artisan Park that may not have been there a few years ago, but appears to be there today for a playground. So I just want to bring that to the board's attention.
That's helpful. Anything else on this? Liaison report. Jack, do you have anything from Jack or Vaughn from CDD?
I'm going to let Vaughn talk first about the CDD meeting, and then I'll add my inputs.
You can be brief.
I don't know if you can be on this one.
Any highlights for us?
No. Yeah, several of us, I think 5 of us, actually showed up at the CDD meeting last night. To make it clear, in case anyone that's listening doesn't realize this, the deputy sheriff's budget comes out of CCDD's budget, not ours, not CROA's budget. So don't come here and say that you want to keep the sheriff. Go to CDD and go to their meetings or contact them somehow and voice your opinion there. Their budget's coming up very soon. And right now it's in the budget, but you never know on that last day.
It's been out and in. It was out and in last night.
I was going to say, I came away with the impression last night that it was not in there, because they said at the beginning of the meeting that it was not in the 3.6 million.
Well, one person did.
Yeah, he's the treasurer.
Well, you're treasurer, and we vote against you all the time. But anyway, the dumpster ordinance was tabled prior to the meeting. Actually, they just pulled it off the agenda, I believe. And there were some other issues that came up. But it seemed that all these issues dealing with the traffic control, the changing of the street directions, the stop signs, and everything that was going on it almost sounded to me, and correct me if you didn't see it this way as well, but it just seemed that all those issues which we thought were going to go to a final vote yesterday, last night, actually went to a vote, but it was more of a vote to continue looking at those issues and waiting for more input from experts and residents as to what they're looking for. The stop signs at Waterside. That's not a CROA proposal, that's a CDD proposal. The traffic direction on Mulberry, Sycamore, curb painting to prevent parking along Sycamore and Mulberry. And so there's just different things that came up, but I didn't see anything final. Is that the way everybody else seemed to see it?
They threw out the one-way traffic on Sycamore and Mulberry.
I got so lost when they were
that was thrown out
through all that going on. That so anyway, I don't think it's final yet. Probably the next meeting will be the final report and vote on these traffic issues. So if you have any concerns, I suggest you attend that meeting. It was packed last night.
And their budget starts October 1,
yes.
Correct?
They'll be voting.
So they'll be finalizing theirs in September.
They'll be voting in September at their meeting, I believe.
So the next meeting is vital.
Yeah. The next meeting is very important.
Jack had comments.
Yeah.
Oh, which comments are we supposed to
Oh,
talk
I thought you said you wanted to talk after Vaughn.
Oh, this is separate. This is about our meeting yesterday. Can I share that with our special events or events meeting?
Oh, sure.
Yes, yesterday, Vaughn, myself, Dave Rose, Mike Nunes, and Steve were all, and JR was present at the meeting. And we kind of focused on one thing. We're trying to get music on Market Street done. And Mike had gone back and talked to all the tenants, and they were all in favor of it, as well as moving the farmers market down to a Market Street. So they're all in favor of it. And then he said, well, we have one glitch, though. Every time we have to have an event at that area, we would have to pull a permit with the county for the use of to shut down the Market Square Road. And he asked if we could contact CDD and possibly get CDD to ask the county for that particular piece of road so we could avoid paying extra fees all the time. And because it also impacts us when we do our holiday events, when we have our singing groups from our community singing there. That's not going to happen if he has to pull a permit all the time. So the CDD was not really interested in asking for that property, which was very interesting to us.
That's along the Market Square, if you're not sure. It's at
all of a sudden it came to light by one of the CDD members that it was county property and they needed to get a permit from now on.
So they hadn't previously gotten a permit?
Never had it before.
According to Dave Tomac, he's with the county, he was there, and I heard him say that he didn't think that it was very expensive, $15 for the permit, something like that. It was very minor, and that it's fairly simple to get because of the way Celebration was developed. It wouldn't be hard for Celebration to pull the permit, so I don't see it as something killing that process, that music on Market Street.
Well, Mike gave us the impression that it was killing.
And that it was more costly than $15.
He wasn't sure of the cost.
Yeah.
I think
and
at
I think
the time.
The other issue is if we're nickel diming, why can't we just have one entity create the permits for everything? I mean, you've got to go to that entity for the permit anyway for parts of that property.
It sounded like Tomac was saying that
he gave
it's
you
pretty much boilerplate and that we could use the same one over and over again.
He gave you a workaround, but he was going to charge you for it, whereas if you went to the CDD and they owned the property, they wouldn't charge you for it.
I think he was saying $15. I mean,
I don't remember saying
that's what
he did mention $15. He said.
So, and he said it's a very simple process. It's easy. You let us know, like you said, boilerplate.
Well, we can certainly revisit that with Mike then and let him know that there's some new information because when we met with him, it sounded like it was much more costly in the hundreds of dollars range. So this makes more sense.
They mentioned they were about liability. They didn't want to accept the liability of having that street.
Yeah, what we heard was if you go up Market Street towards Celebration Avenue, you know that Market Street square?
The fountain.
The fountain. Well, that curve that goes in front of the bank and around to the post office is a county road. And what we found out yesterday morning was that the county has offered that road, which is owned by them, to CDD for free to take it over. And from what I gathered last night, the meeting, when I brought it up, when I got up to speak, was that they were concerned about liability for if they took that road on for anything that happened on it. So I don't know if that would ever fly, or they would ever accept it. But anyway, it was offered for free, and I just don't know if that's ever going to happen with the current board there. So.
But just to add one piece to this, in the emails that we got from you, Jack, today, I think, CDD wants to remark certain streets that, in fact, are CROA property.
That's a different issue altogether. They were talking, this is in regard to the one-way, they're talking about one-way traffic on Mulberry and on Sycamore in order to allow parking on both sides of the street, not have a conflicting traffic pattern. And the solution that the CDD proposed instead was to have a painted stripes 30 feet down from each stop sign at both directions, a four-way stop at the intersection of Mulberry and Sycamore, and then where the fire hydrants are in the middle of the street on Sycamore, take a 20-foot section on either side of that and stripe that out as an area that you can kind of bypass traffic as it comes down there. That was accepted by Alan Groves, who is the principal designer of the one-way traffic, and voted upon by, I guess, the CDD expressed the desire to go that direction. My issue is that we actually own the property. Okay, we own a section of each intersection that goes in the main village, and I think they needed to come to us as far as permission.
I mean, I think the general. I'm not offering legal advice here. I want to be clear, but I think the general concept of property law is if you own a piece of property, you don't give up rights in that property without some careful consideration, and that at the point that you allow the property to be used with your knowledge, you are effectively creating an easement, an adverse possession, and that has some legal implications. So I think we either need to get a legal opinion on this, better than my opinion, but probably not as good as Vaughn's. But I think it is unwise for us to in any way acquiesce to this request prior to a legal opinion, which I'm reasonably sure is going to say, don't you dare.
Well, this goes back to something else. You know, this is something that was in our documents from back in 94, 96, was first mentioned in the charters and stuff like that. My issue and the question to all of you is, should we even retain this property? We've never shut down the downtown area. Should we retain it? Because there will be costs involved that we have not budgeted for, which includes our payment our repavement of those roads and stuff like that. I don't know.
And have we paid to repave this road?
No, those roads have never been repaved.
I don't think it's the entire road. It's literally it's like a crosswalk type section of the road that would allow you to.
Well, I gave them the square footage of it, and it is substantial square footage. You know, it's probably about 50 feet.
I think when the roads have been repaved, the county's just repaved everything.
Those haven't been repaved.
And I don't know how long it's been since the last time
they've never been repaved.
That's the original pavement.
So can we get some, going back to the original documents, see what the implications are and see what legal advice?
I will take and utilize the Osceola County Property Appraiser and just do some screenshots of those and send them all to Tom and ask him for his opinion on those.
Yeah.
Because I think Jackson's probably right. Anytime you see another entity wanting to utilize that property, it's usually through an easement agreement.
The only thing I spoke of at the last night at the CDD meeting was I gave them the update on the interlocal agreement. They seemed pleased from the smiles up there when they found out that the county, just to update everybody, the county's looking at changing the ordinance because before the money was shut down because the county said we had to own the land. in order to give you the couple $2+ million. The ordinance wouldn't allow them to give it to anyone unless they own the land that where the building was going to go on. So we weren't willing to convey the land, and so what they're doing now is they're working on changing the ordinance. I think it's in the lawyer's hands now. Right, Steve? They're working to change the ordinance to allow that money to be given to like an HOA without having to own the land themselves, and that would take them out of the business of owning the land, insuring the land, dealing with the construction of anything on that land, contractors, etc. And this also allows them to not only do it for celebration, the new ordinance, the change in the ordinance would allow them to give dollars anywhere else in the county to other HOAs and other organizations that aren't government and that the county doesn't own the land. They're going to be able to give dollars there too. So this is a win-win for them, and it's a win for us. So we're looking to see that hopefully pass. I understand it went to the commission.
I believe
it's been presented to the commission.
Right. It's specific to park impact fees, and Commissioner Chowdhury brought it up at their last commission meeting, and it was supported for them to take a further look at it and for the attorneys to start diving a little bit deeper into it.
So that it'll be a $2+ million donation. So that'll certainly, hopefully, we get that, and it'll be a great impact on our budget for those fields.
So anything else from CDD? And so Jack, the report that you were just making about meeting with Mike and so forth, it overlapped to CDD, but it was also part of the other liaison report, which is the ad hoc events planning.
Yeah, and I got to
conversation.
There were some things that Mike brought up that we thought was especially interesting. He mentioned that there's a group in downtown Orlando that holds art festivals, and he would like they've asked us they've asked Lexington if they could utilize the Front Street and the Market Street and part of Bloom Street as far as a festival, but the time frame would be too soon for them to pull off. So he's talking about doing it a year from now. But once again, this would also require the permit for the Market Square area.
So that would also...
And this would be a free thing. It would not cost Celebration.
It's an Orlando group that would come in. And so that would complement the existing, what's it called, Art and Wine Stroll that we have? I think that's what
this is. They've been here before, right, Steve?
I believe years ago they were here, and then they moved on somewhere else, and now they'd like to come back.
Good.
It is. It's
with their advertising.
It's a very big deal.
Yep.
Great. And that brings business downtown and so forth. Anything else from that little ad hoc group that you want to report?
No.
Okay. Moving to financial review. Brian?
Yeah. I'll try to be relatively quick here. A couple things I want to talk about. If you looked at revenues, we're pretty much right on revenue. If you look at expenses, we're actually $120,000 over budget, and it's going to get worse. So what's happening here is we had invoices from Davies finishing up last year, Rose Gate, but mostly Davies, that got booked, some of them. And there's more of them, as I had meetings yesterday and today with Steve and Susan, that have not been booked. And okay, I can stand here. And I've asked Susan, she really needs to do a detailed reconciliation, ask her to highly prioritize for the next couple of days getting it done. We need to take all of Davies' invoices, we need to take what we paid, we need to figure out a payable, but we're looking at another sizable pop in August, I think. You can argue about whether we book it this year or we book a prior period adjustment, but it's an expense that's coming through the financials. So, to me, with revenues online and that they're happening, we're probably looking at a couple $100,000 loss for the year, more or less is what I would think. We got cash, I mean, so we'll survive it, but when you talk about us as an entity, it's a surprise and not a good one. The rest of the story is pretty consistent. If you bounce to the next page, Steve. what I'd like to talk about is here. You've seen me talk about reserves before and where we're at from a good perspective. One of the things that's become clear is that the athletic fields with the building and everything is going to run more than we had thought before. The current estimate is, when we had the meeting with Danny at the workshop, we're guessing $4.5 million. You know, maybe we'll get lucky and it's $4.4 million, but it's a real number. What I've thrown in here is a wild card of $2 million being paid this year, with the rest of it being paid next year. I mean, we're breaking ground late August, early September, with really stuff happening, but you know, there's a lot of stuff with the athletic fields that gets expensed next year, the building starts, and that type of stuff. So we end the year in good shape. And Vaughn just spoke about the county. If the county gives us a couple of $1 million out of the $4.5 million, we would be in good shape next year, let's say, with roughly $2.5 million in the, not the replacement reserves, which has got 1.5, but over here in towards our parks and recs at $2.5 million. So we could be in good shape next year there. The county ultimate decision is very important, and timing is very important. I've heard the schools are quite crowded, and there's a lot of stuff going on like that, and I think more time that passes, the more it's not good for us. I'm hoping it happens, and it happens fast. I want to make a plug here. We've got the budget meeting on September 10th. I've heard a couple of pitches today for money. I've seen a preliminary budget. One thing that's happening is trash. We were getting a credit for all the dumpsters and everything that was in the parks and everything. That credit is going away next year. So trash is in and out, and there is going to probably be a sizable increase in your trash fees. I've seen the first draft of our budget, and this will shock you, but the expenses are not less than they were the prior year. They're more. So I think we're going to have to, being quite honest, take a good hard look on September 10th. So those of you who have interest in our plan, I'm encouraging you to come. It's actually going to matter, because I think we're going to sit here and have to make decisions. We can make a decision about expenses. We could also make decisions about reserves and how much we filter into places like that. Because if you look at something like replacement reserves, you know, we'll have $1.5 million, and I think we have a need of $700,000 or $800,000 next year. So we have different buttons to push, but we're going to have a conversation, and we're going to have to make decisions. And I think that's important for everybody to know. So, PJ, on September 10th, if you're bored, be here. All right.
I'll bring my balls.
Please. Any questions?
So without the county funds, where do you?
Oh, if we don't get the county funds, we're back to zero. I mean, we will have more monies rolling in next year, but it'll be the situation where basically by completing the ball fields, you know, we'll have created plenty of opportunity into the future to refill it. It's just going to take a while.
This presumes this doesn't show anything about county funds.
No, this only presumes $2 million being spent this year and another $2.5. If it's the 4.5 being spent next year, if we get a reimbursement from the county for $2 million or 2.5 or whatever it could be, you know, then that could offset next year's.
And also can be a jump start on community center funding.
Yep.
Building up that reserve.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions here? Okay, moving on to management report. Steve.
I'll start with Comcast. We had a meeting on Tuesday, August 7th, where we invited representatives from Comcast and the Condo Association to come discuss some shared concerns about an agreement between Comcast and Smart City on how cable services are being provided to the condo associations. So Raphael Bisbell is the vice president with Comcast. He was here. He did communicate to the residents that of the condo associations that he would look at the agreements, because there was some dispute on the language and the restrictiveness of the language that were in those agreements for Comcast to be able to bring that infrastructure into the communities. And I believe at this time we have not heard anything back from him. I know Jackson, one of our board members here, has emailed him and asked him for a response on that, and I don't know if you've received anything yet.
I did hear from one from Mirasol today that they got a phone call after my email that indicated that Comcast was willing to prepare a new document without exclusive requirement, which was the huge sticking point, That would be a major breakthrough if that happens. My hope is that that same communication will be shared with the Terraces and with Georgetown and with the Artisan Club condos, at least those groups. But I have not heard at this moment whether that's happened. But I also think it was very positive that we had condo managers and owners and representatives together in the same room, that we were able to talk about and recognize their concerns. I want to just point out that the question was raised on Monday whether or not we should be worried about condo owners. The answer is yes. They pay CROA dues just like everyone else, and they represent a substantial portion of this community. So I think it's important that we try to do our best. This is beyond our control to what Comcast ends up doing, but I think this was an example of where we were able to exert some organizational influence to hopefully move the ball forward. And if not, then it isn't.
Right. And Jackson did a really good job at that meeting, framing it up to them to understand how the impact of all of those condo owners together, working together to come up with these agreements that are less restrictive to at least get the infrastructure in. Then it really is up to the individual associations to work on the types of deals they want for the services provided. But without having the infrastructure, there's no opportunity for the cable services to be provided. So any questions on Comcast meeting? Okay. The next item I have some exciting news with the athletic fields and the road leading to the athletic fields. Last week we had a meeting with Osceola County, the building department, and they granted us approval through the pre-construction meeting to begin construction. So you're going to start seeing some movement taking place out there. Tomorrow we have our first on-site pre-con meeting with ARCO, our general contractor. And we'll start discussing some of the preliminary information, some of the timeframes for construction. It's a 6-month process overall. The first step to this is the silt fencing going up throughout the property. The wetlands that are in the middle will be silt fenced also. We have had some positive movement with Army Corps of Engineers, and I just recently received today an update from Mark, our engineer, with this, that they are looking a little bit closer at Disney's the master permit holder with this, so they're looking at the notice of commencement to Army Corps, which is positive for it not to take as long, closer to a 30-day notice period. So that it won't hopefully be that 6-month time frame that was our worst case scenario. So we will actually break ground then after the August 27th of installing the silt fences. They all have to be reviewed and approved, and then you'll start seeing some dirt move there. We are looking at September 12th at 4:30 as our groundbreaking ceremony, where we'd like to have some pictures taken and just utilize some of that to do our kickoff to just getting ready for this athletic field complex on the road coming on board as a newest amenity within the community. So we do have some positive progress there, and you'll see over the next few months a lot of trucks coming in and out of there bringing in fill dirt. Yes?
Steve, I had a comment made to me by a CDD board member regarding the trucks going in and out. Maybe they can answer this question. They made it clear that road, CDD made it clear that road is theirs going in.
Well, part of it, in front of the CDD building. The other part of it's yours.
Up to some point. And that the heavy trucks in there that bring the dirt in there, that if they damage their part of the road, that we're going to be responsible for it. And I didn't know if they can make a comment about if it needs to be addressed or not. But I'm just passing it on. And
well, what I would tell you then is we'll keep an eye on that, and if we see damage taking place, I'll talk to Sonny about that. We're going to be meeting bi-weekly, and we'll be meeting at the CDD building, so we'll have a first-hand look of how the road looks throughout the construction process.
I'm just passing on what I was
duly noted.
Don't shoot me.
If the CDD complains about that, can we complain about the rocks in front of their building?
Well, I did have a meeting this morning with representatives from the CDD, and and talked about items that the CDD owned that and that have been dumped on property that you all own. So there is some cooperation here with that entity to get this construction going and get this taken care of. So I invited them to the pre-con meeting tomorrow, and they've both agreed that they're going to attend. I think them being part of the process will help us make sure that these types of things are clear.
Who's going to attend?
Russ and Maria. Any other questions on the athletic field complex? Vaughn did a wonderful job of talking about the interlocal agreement, so my portion's done, but I will ask Todd if he can come up and talk about maintenance and operations.
Good evening again. So just a few updates. As David was talking earlier to me, the playground at North Village is done, except for some debris that needs to be removed. So we're hopeful that tomorrow afternoon it will be open. The playground in East Village is a little delayed. It's up. The synthetic turf is going in tomorrow, but it was placed at the wrong angle, so it was too close to the fence, so they had to disassemble it and move it and rebuild it. So safety first. So that one is a little behind schedule, but like I said, probably by Monday or Tuesday it'll be finished and back open again.
I have one question. I don't want to cut you off midway through.
Okay, don't.
The East Village. I'm going to. Sorry. The East Village. Are the swings getting replaced there, or are they staying?
No, the swings at East Village are staying.
They stay.
Yes.
So the color difference will be different.
Yes.
Stay different.
Would you like me to repaint
Okay.
it? We'll talk later. So
Cool.
I would like, on a good note, and Brian may like this, I worked a deal out with Forever Lawn, which was the supplier of the synthetic turf, who had provided a bid originally that y'all had approved through Topline Recreation. So in working with Topline and Forever Lawn, I was able to go directly to Forever Lawn and saved you $18,000 on the project. You're welcome, Brian. You're welcome. So those are the things we like to do and like to promote. That's why we do in the background is as often as we can, we try and get those deals worked. So on to the next thing, Heritage Hall. It is will be completed by tomorrow. We're doing cleaning and setting the refrigerator, and we have some painting being done, and that'll all be done tomorrow and turn back over to Parks and Rec. And they've already got some eyes on it and getting some reservations for more bookings. So we're happy about that, and I'm coming under budget on that one as well. So, landscape report cards. I want to talk about that briefly. Well, before I go to that, I want to do ARC. We went, Brian and Vaughn were there for the ARC meeting. All of our landscape plans went through, with one exception of Spring Park. It was approved with conditions, and that was to get some different plant material suggestions from landscape architect. To tell you how tough ARC can be, they denied our town hall proposal. So even CROA gets beat up in those meetings, but in a good way. What we did is they asked us to go back and redo the concept and look at a couple of different scenarios and phase it so it's doable in various phases. So that's what we'll do. They asked that the architect, landscape architect, Albert, and Jeffrey Moen and myself get together and come up with a solution and come back to them. So that will be on the next agenda. And then on to the landscape report. So it's in your agenda, the scorecard that's in there. Just want to let you all know how we'll proceed from that. Once the landscape company, once I go out and do the inspections, the landscape company will get the reports. They will have 24 hours to respond to us as to what their plan of action is to correct any discrepancies that are in there. That will be in your board book each month so you can see how they've responded. Then my inspection will be followed up on any discrepancies that were in there. So that way there's some checks and balances, and they know if they don't get it done in the time frame, we get someone else to fulfill that one obligation or two that are deficient.
And that'll be live in September?
Yes. Yes, it will. So y'all saw the sheet. Is it clear on how that is going to work? And it's hopefully it's laid out well enough that we're all on the same page.
How long will your inspections take for all the villages with that detail?
It's fills my days. Yeah,
But I would
definitely.
assume you're going to be doing it as a normal course of driving
Oh, yeah,
around and doing it.
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not assuming that he's going to do inspections for one day before the board book goes out,
No,
but
no,
it's
no,
going to be
no.
part of a normal process that
Right.
you're just doing.
Yeah, so North Village, as I drive through there, if I'm meeting with a contractor, I'll utilize that time to do the inspection while I'm there. It's all in Excel, so I can get on my little tablet and boom, 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 done. So they'll filter through.
To be perfectly clear on my thought process with this thing, we get individual emails that say, we can get 20 people to say something is wonderful, and one person says it's horrible, and the one person who says it's horrible can try to dominate our time. I would like us to be able to say we have a regular monthly report card, and XYZ is getting a B+. We're going to review it 2 or 3 times. We're all going to have comments. We're going to revise it. But at the end of the day, if somebody comes back, we're going to say, look, it's consistently got a B+, it's now at an A-. Yeah, you hate it, we're sorry, but, or if it's at a C-, then we should be discussing it regularly, and sometimes it may be there because of blight, because of hurricanes, because of this and that. Okay, that's life. And it ought to be a communication thing between you folks and them and us. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to be proactive communication and give people feedback.
I love it. It's no surprises is what it is. It allows consistency. It allows everybody to know where everyone stands.
And if there's problem areas and there's remain as problem areas, we want to fix them.
Absolutely.
So we don't want C minuses.
No, we don't.
But in fairness,
but it's going to happen.
We will have C minuses at some point in time for reasons that are perfectly legitimate for a short period of time, maybe.
Exactly.
I mean, he's grimacing and he's saying never, but record this. We will at some point in time.
It's okay.
And as long as we identify it, fix it, communicate, it works.
When we're dealing with living organisms, there's going to be multiple variables that you're going to see. I mean, we saw just 2 weeks ago Pennyroyal Park, which has been a problem child for years and years because of multiple different variables. It looked perfect, and now it's having struggles again, and it's not due to a lack of maintenance or a lack of scope work in the contract. It's due to variables that are affecting it. So for me, what I'm very concerned about is the scope of the work being done. And if it's not, that's not a C-, that's a D or an F, and that needs to be corrected immediately.
And I don't think it's going to be, what is it, several, isn't it 3? Maybe 3 classifications?
Yeah, it's 3. Yep.
But it helps monitor, and it helps get everyone on the same page.
It does.
And that's the intent.
Hold people accountable.
So is it possible in the scope of service that we could get an exception report that if there's a, was it a 1, if it's not
satisfactory?
Not satisfactory. If there's a 1 that isn't resolved within the period of time that you would expect it to be resolved, 3 days, 7 days.
Right.
3 days of inspection, whatever, so there's some inspection time. Could we just get an exception report that would tell us that?
Yes.
I think part of what Brian's talking about, at least what I'm concerned about, is the sense of surprise that we're better off if we know in advance, if we can see things in advance. If we get caught by surprise with, oh, this happened and we don't know it, it's hard for us to do our jobs effectively.
Sure.
So since you're preparing the report anyway, I guess I'm really just asking, can you make that available to us?
Yes. Yeah, do you want that at each meeting, or do you want it in advance of the meetings?
I think it's probably best if we just put that as part of this report so that they can see that on a monthly basis.
Yeah, otherwise it might get chaotic.
And I'm looking on Kevin's computer. The reason I'm looking around so frantically is that he's got the grid. Somehow he's managed to call it up on his computer. Has anybody else managed to call up that grid on their computer? You have it. You don't have it. I don't have it. Brian doesn't have it.
I have not found
it. You just
Jackson, it's in the actual management report. If you go into operations and maintenance, and you look on the second page, I believe.
Yes.
Where it says updates Yellowstone landscape contract management. There's a blue there, and click on that, and you go.
So how would we have guessed that? That's my question.
You have to go through the whole report and click on every single link.
I read every page.
There's a lot of information here, folks. We give you a ton of information.
Yes. So as you can see on that, it lists every park at per village.
I got it. This is
okay, in the future, just make it say
Brian, report card or something.
And by the way, I want to thank you for putting it in English as compared to the Arabic that the financial report was in for me on this particular. Just say it.
It does say pool. Is that in general with every pool?
No, that's just the pool for that village. So
I see.
top
Okay.
left, there's East Village.
So that was only for one village.
Yeah.
So this is just one village
That's
that you...
just one village, yes.
So how often would you come to Artisan Park or South Village or Spring Lake?
There would be a report for each village, which is Artisan, once a month.
So once a month, every part of the whole community
will have a report.
Surveyed once a month?
Yes.
And do you have enough people on your team to do that?
Well, that's why I was asking what kind of...
It's really having enough of the right people to do that, and he's getting himself in that position now. We had some openings that are being filled with the right people to be able to make sure that this is done.
Because this looks like it's pretty time intensive.
There's 62 parks that would be listed, plus each facility.
I'm sorry to cut in on you, but I think you're leading to somewhere which is important, which new board members, especially you, Jackson, love to talk about new things, but we're going to have to get to the point where we're going to have to actually start prioritizing, because we're going to find out our budget's got constraints as we go into September, and I think we have not yet sat here and done this. Let's get religious about this, and how much money do we really have to spend, and what are priorities? Because it's easy to sit here and say, I want, and I think we're going to get to the point now where we're going to say, okay, now what do I need?
Yeah, and I'm glad to have that debate on an issue-by-issue question. But conceptually, I come from big government, you come from small government. I want more, you may want less. That's a legitimate difference of opinion. I don't doubt that we're going to have to make choices about what we do, but I'd like to be able to be informed before we make the choices about what it takes to make that happen. And so I would like a candid evaluation of, is this more time-consuming and task-intensive than it should be, or that it produces a result for us?
Well, real quick, let me jump in. I can assure you that as we go through this process, we are looking at what it costs to run this association. We start zero base. Now, you're going to use some historical information because you just, like, contracts are there, you're contractually obligated, you have to. But if I get to a point where I feel like we just cannot provide the services that you're asking for with the staffing level that I have, I'm going to ask you for more staff. I have to.
Okay.
And I would hope that setting up a system like this in a preventative oversight way will save time from resolving problems later.
Right.
I mean, prior boards have had so many discussions about the prior landscape contractor and so much makeup work.
Sure.
David,
so that was major labor, and the services weren't there, and we were paying for it.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We can either work in a proactive mode and put systems in place to where we're putting our work up front and getting the results in the back end, or we can spend our time running around chasing complaints, and that does not get you the results that you're looking for.
And we may find by starting this for a couple months, it's going to take a little bit, but then we may say, let's go every other month, or let's just make sure it's done at least twice a month, or 2 times, whatever.
I do, don't let the report base on what I've done in the past, because I'm always out there in the parks, and just because you haven't gotten a report on it doesn't mean that I'm not out there continually. So once a month report, I'm out there in every park once a week at least, and seeing it, and Yellowstone can answer to that one, because we meet every week and discuss things. So
I think this gives you and the residents more confidence, because I know Todd's out there, I see him out there, but this document gives you a little bit more confidence.
I would prefer to have the document front and center in the management report.
Sure.
Now, so you don't even have to open it. Let's make it very easy for people to sign. It's good.
And I think subjectively, things are looking better. Subjectively, without formal criteria, things are looking better.
Right. It is overall, but you're always going to have an individual park that has a variable that's thrown in there that we have to address. And we see a lot of times in emails and phone calls from residents that the sky is falling because this park has this particular problem. It does not mean that problem's not being addressed.
But if this is not hidden and it's followed by comments of relevance, you or we as board members can point to it and say we're aware of it, and here's how we're thinking about it.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it easy.
That's a good point.
Good. Anything else for you?
No, that's
That's the end of our management report.
For the sake of clarity, Jackson and I love to bust on each other, and we'll have a cup of coffee once a week, so don't read anything into anything.
I'll sit between you with buffers.
No, we're good.
Vaughn?
Before we get into the agenda, action items, are we going to hear from Bennett?
We don't need to.
Okay, I didn't know if we were on some kind of report or anything.
Didn't plan to.
Okay.
Just a couple things that have been highlighted, and we'll move right into the action items. We have talked about, and I'll try to do this in order, Monday, September 10th, starting at 9:30 is the budget workshop.
I believe that's the correct time, yes, 9:30.
Okay. And that's an all-day budget workshop, and there will be things throughout the day. Will the time that we talk, the approximate time that we talk about certain things be posted ahead of time, or is it just we're blocking out the day?
We're going to block out the day, but I will have a schedule for you to kind of control.
I'm thinking of residents who might want to say, I want to hear the discussion on blank. I'm not going to be there at 9:30. I'll come in at 1.
I agree that residents shouldn't have to be here all day, and I think if we could kind of
A
have
rough-
a time.
Well, a segment of the time that's for them only.
So some rough timelines.
We can do
would be
that, and then just leave it to you to make sure we're moving along that time frame.
Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight 3 dates. Monday, September 10th, 9:30 budget workshop. Wednesday, September 12th, 4:30, groundbreaking for the athletic fields and concession building and roads.
And we'll send invite for that also.
Right, but just, so we're summarizing. And then the other thing that has not been cited tonight, just for our calendars, correct me, is
Town Hall.
Town Hall on Monday, September 17th, 6 p.m., this room. Brief update on interlocal agreement, brief update to the community on recreation, athletic complex, and so forth. Just very brief overview, and then the main highlight is listening. The main highlight is listening. So those 3 dates in September, that's the first half of September.
And then you have a regular board meeting on September 26th, I believe is the day.
The 4th Wednesday
Right,
of
fourth
September.
Wednesday, yeah.
So just, okay, action item. First action item. First, there's a brief presentation. We had a board discussion on the celebration news in our June board meeting. At that point, we had already had some workshops on this. We had detailed discussion. I want to do 6 slides, very quick, that summarize this part of the results of the survey. This is a survey from August, and the survey had 2 points. One was celebration.
Point of order,
Please.
if I might.
Yep.
In light of what Brian has talked to us about tonight with finances,
Yep.
which I would characterize, and you may choose to disagree, but I would characterize as break glass, pull handle. It seems to me that any discussion of a magazine versus a newspaper and the resultant costs that go with it is premature until we get into the budget. And so I would ask that we table this action item tonight, including the discussion of the survey.
Okay.
Let us get into the budget. Let us dig in and see. This may be a completely moot point if we don't have any money available.
Okay.
So I would move to table this item
Okay.
at this time.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
So your point is, we have the meeting on September 10th, we look at our overall financial situation, pros and cons of this, and then think about how that affects us.
And in the context of that, part of the survey said forthrightly, and this is based on, Brian, your review before, this would cost us to go to a magazine, it would cost us about 30 grand, ballpark. Is that a fair statement? So based on that, if we were to choose to go that way, that would cost us. Let's defer that discussion until after we know the full scope of our budget for 2019. Is that the point?
That's correct.
Any further discussion? And then I can defer on all of this. We can close the...
Well, I think you need to take a vote on the motion.
Say it again. We need, yes, but we can defer on any presentation of findings. Any further discussion on this? We would be postponing until...
It's just tabled. That's all we're doing. I'm just tabling the motion.
Tabling, okay. Because we don't actually have a motion on the floor except for your tabling.
My motion is to table action item 1.
Okay. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. No further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move to action item 2. And there was no time constraints on us for that action item 1 to resolve it by September 1st or whatever. It's just,
would you like to combine action item 2 and 3, or do you want to keep them separate?
let's keep them separate just for discussion purposes. Thank you. Motion to approve bid for the concession building with athletic fields by Arnco Construction in the amount of $624,000.20 from the CROA Capital Improvement Reserve expenditure.
So moved.
Thank you, Jack, and
No.
Brian second.
No, Brian's first, I second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You got
Brian
it
first, Jack second. Discussion.
If you'd like me to frame it quickly, we have the athletic fields in the road as phase 1 of the construction. Phase 2 was design of the concession restrooms, and then going through the permitting and approval process for that, it took a little bit longer. So it went out to RFP, we got 2 bids for it, and there was a workshop at the beginning of this month to discuss those 2 bids with Danny Bumpus, who is not only our designer of the building, but our owner's rep for the overall project. So Danny is here tonight. Arnco, who we're recommending to receive this bid for the construction of the concession restroom building, they're also doing the road and the athletic fields. They're both here in the audience, so if you have any questions of them, they're available.
And we did spend a lot of time in the workshop, and thank you, Danny, for all of your time before the workshop and then during the workshop. Any discussion?
20 cents?
That's Sonny's tip on that, the additional 20 cents.
That'll go towards that latte we were talking about earlier, just so that we can keep...
is a typo. Yeah. $624,000.
Thanks, Sonny. Could have just taken it as a tip.
So now we have to amend. Ron Roberts has saved us 20 cents today.
Listen, you can approve it as it is, and if you save 20 cents on this project, then that's coming in under budget.
We can come in under budget, Tom.
Yeah, thanks to this.
I have a broader question, and maybe, because we struck item 4 from the agenda, which was cleaning the field, and why did we do that?
I did that. That was me. I did that because I want to talk to them tomorrow during the pre-construction meeting about that cost. I don't know if that, I want to make sure that cost is in line. It just seemed high. So I'm just, we struck it for now, but we'll bring it back.
Okay, I'm good.
And it might be that same number, I just have some more questions about it.
Okay, that's fair.
Push,
yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? I know
we're amending the amount by 20 cents.
Are we amending the amount? I don't think, I would argue we don't need to.
No new motion.
Procedurally, it's okay.
20 cents is 20 cents. No, I'm just.
Any further discussion on this item?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 3, motion to approve the change order for a lift station for the athletic fields construction by Arnco Construction in the amount of $55,016.96 from the CROA Capital Improvement Reserve expenditure. I know half of this approximately was part of the...
Yeah, if you get a motion in a second, I'll explain it a little bit.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Brian and Jack second. And part of this was part of the earlier award, but deferred pending whatever we decide.
The actual lift station, and then there's some additional charges there because per county permitting, we had to change some of the design. So there's an additional cost to the construction of that change in that design.
Okay.
And that's on top of the $29,000.
And will this lift station then be sufficient for the full size of this building? I mean, we're not looking, because there was some discussion originally about you put in more than you need, less than you need. Is this big enough to?
You can come up, please, just so you're on camera.
I mean, since he came tonight, I figured we ought to let him talk.
Yeah.
They're part of the, in addition to the 29,000, the lift station is being lowered or deepened 2 feet, which would take care of whatever building goes on the adjacent site.
Okay. And does this also include all the plumbing and I mean, with a lift station, are we building capacity for, I mean, in other words, we're not going to have to go back and redo something at some later date?
No.
We were already building all the sewer lines up to it anyways. Now we actually have the station.
You're not asking if we were to expand, for example, the bathrooms, are you?
I just remember there was a discussion. It was not clear early on whether or not this lift station was needed, how big it would be, where it was going to be. And so there was a lot of discussion about how to design it, as I recall, and a lot of different price variables.
It was taken out because at the time we awarded the fields, the concession stand was not there, and we didn't want a lift station sitting there for whatever length of time it might be. So now it's in, and it's the size of it is fine to accommodate a building. You know, unless some 20-story building goes there, I mean, it just then it wouldn't be. But it wasn't deep enough. If the building goes on the end closest to CDD, we wouldn't be able to feed it by gravity to the lift station, so that's why it's deeper.
And Dana, just for clarification, you're talking about not only supporting the concession restroom building that was just approved tonight, but also an additional building if that is the will of the board moving forward. The community center you're talking about?
Potential future.
Right. It would have the capacity to
something else.
Hold two buildings.
Right, because it goes into a force main anyway, so if we don't do this, then we'll have to do another lift station for the next building.
Oh, okay. Right.
So we're saying in the long run, this is still the most cost-efficient.
It is, and we're probably saving as much money as Todd saved on that turf too. But yes, this is very cost-efficient. I mean, you know, you spend some money. If no building ever goes there, you've wasted a little money, but we're assuming something's going to go there.
Okay. Something will ultimately go there.
Right.
Yeah, we will ultimately go there with something. Okay. Anything else on this? Yeah. Any other reason for
not standing directly?
Talk to Danny Moore, have him say some more.
I'm sorry, I read the sign. I wasn't directly in front of the microphone.
We're ready to vote on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 5.
Sure. I can't read that.
Item 5, motion to approve Osceola County building permit fees in the amount of $34,446.84. CROA Capital Improvement Reserve Expenditure. Have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Jack.
Second.
From Brian.
And this is just part of the process that we needed to go through to be able to get Osceola County to approve the permit and then give us the pre-con approval to move forward. So it's a necessity, you have to do it.
Is this the only permit we need, or will there be more?
There's probably going to be some more there. I know that there's some that Hanson Walter has paid through their agreement, and then we're just reimbursing them for it. But this is the one that was outside of that. That's a large sum that needed to be approved.
Were those included in the original presentation?
I believe so, and if they're not, I'll clean them up through board action at the next meeting. But there was some sense of urgency on getting everything done to be able to get the county pre-con meeting completed.
I can clarify it a little bit more. It's the engineering fee, and the reason you're paying it directly is because when the contractors bid it, let me back up, it's based on the certain items of construction in the engineering contract, which we don't really know until after everything's done and we meet with the county. So if we ask the contractor to do it, he would guess at it and it would be wrong. So this way it's clean, and so you guys pay it. Now there will be building permit fees. Sonny, you have the building permit fees in there for the building. This is for the site. There may be some impact fees, but we have that budgeted also. But this is specifically to get the site clearing and the field started.
Right. And I think one of the questions, will there be more? There's an impact fee, I believe, that we're still waiting to hear back from the county on what that total is going to be. We have a Duke Energy meeting next week that there's going to be a Duke fee. So there will be some additional fees, but they're all accounted for, I think, when Brian puts the display up of that $250,000 of additional type fees that.
Yeah, we had $80,000 with Duke. We had $40,000 with the county.
Right.
So that's why I figured there would be a little bit more coming. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and some of them, there was some high estimates, like gopher tortoises. We had estimated that they would be a certain amount, and they came in 0 gopher tortoises, which is great news. There was none found on that property at all. And next door, CDD had quite a few when they were clearing out. So good news, the gopher tortoises are shining upon us that we don't have to pay for that. I think that the mitigation credits was around $7,000 when we originally thought it could be up to $15,000. So some of these numbers are coming in lower than we originally expected.
Good. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 6.
If I can, Dave.
Please, go ahead.
Since we've done the 3 relating to the athletic field, I want to make sure that we I'd like to understand how we're going to keep track of how much money we're spending on this whole project. We're spending, because the question we're going to be asked is, and I don't want to be sitting around next March guessing. So, I mean, I'm expecting a monthly report. This is how much we've paid. This is how much we have payable. We can work on the structure of how we report it, but I think there'll be a ton of interest. So let's talk about the general ledger accounts and sub-ledger accounts and whatever we got to do to make sure we're on top of this.
See,
And
now
outside
he
of this
wants new
meeting,
stuff. Pardon? Now you want new stuff.
Well, and I think Brian's already put together a shell of a worksheet. I just need to get some additional numbers, start popping in there, but we can start checking off as we make these payments towards completion of certain items.
and I kind of thought you would, I'm doing it more for the whole board, but this, you know, people are going to ask.
Yeah, so what we've approved, what the board has approved to date, and then there'll be some more approvals coming. And then the expenditures.
It'll be any additional permits that we still have outstanding, and if there's any obstacles or change orders that are recognized as we're going through construction. But we'll know those during the bi-weekly construction meetings, and those will be the ones that Jack and Kevin will be part of. So you all will hear it when I hear it, what's going on that property.
And as a board, when we have to take action, we'll need to do that in a timely way. So those might slip into some workshops.
Possibly, yeah. There may be some things that come up that we have to do quickly, or they'll stall the project.
Yeah, we don't want to stall the project, so.
Will there be minutes on your subgroup or not?
We certainly can. We can take
Is
notes.
that something we should do?
I think that'd be good.
I'll take the minutes.
Yeah,
Make
I
sure.
mean, even if they're high level, I
Minutes.
think it would be good.
On our meetings, you're going to take minutes?
I do all agendas and minutes for those.
Oh, good. Sonny's got the
Perfect.
minutes.
That's
covered.
We'll add
Thank
them
you.
right to our board packet then.
Yeah, perfect. Next item, motion to extend the contract expiring
guys.
July 31 with Advantage Tennis to December 31 to cycle with other recreation contracts.
So moved.
Thank you, Debbie, and Jackson's a second. Discussion? Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Discussion, rationale, any further, other than
It's
what's
our
in the
existing
packet?
tennis contractor who's done a good job.
It's in the packet.
Yeah.
Take the vote.
Call the question.
Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, motion to approve the regrading and resodding of the Great Lawn by Yellowstone Landscape, amount of $31,175, CROA replacement reserve expenditure. Todd, please.
So move first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Second.
Thank you, Brian.
Well,
Jack and Brian.
just like PJ, I wish she was still here. We brought props along. You guys would.
Are they handouts?
Yeah, feel free. Take a handful.
Now, the question when they're coming up, did you know PJ was doing prop?
No, I didn't actually. I did not. No.
Just kidding.
What we have here is a bucket of muck. So this is from the Great Lawn. Over the years, the prior landscape company had resodded and resodded because they needed to. But what that created was, muck, 6 inches deep, and it's retaining moisture very badly.
You can kind of see there.
He's wringing it out.
He's wringing it out. Yeah. And that's the top layer, so it's not even draining down through.
So, props are good. So what we need to do is remove about 6 inches of this muck to get down to the original sand and get the grade back to where it drains into the drains that are in the yard to create the event lawn back to where it needs to be for all the events that we have coming up. Can we hit the time frame of not interrupting events? Yes, we can. We have about 30 days from the day we would have received approval till Food Truck Friday that comes up. So that gives us enough time frame to get in, strip it out, have the sod in immediately, and let it grow in for a few weeks so we can have foot traffic back on it. If we don't do it, the results could be squishy feet in mud and things like that for all of our events. So, did you guys want to talk any more on that?
No, I mean, we're going to work really closely with Todd on the time frame. Obviously, you know from some of the earlier, I guess, spring projects with doing the St. Augustine, that there is the complication sometimes with fields of sod being wet. So, if this gets approved, we're going to be working closely with our sod vendors to make sure we would have delivery dates in time and letting Todd know, and if we say, hey, it's going to interrupt events, we'll reconvene on it.
Right. Well, this is actually twofold, because we're taking the strippings, moving it between the pool and the tennis court that's already low and swampish, and residing that with St. Augustine that likes swampy stuff.
So, question, when was the first time that this was noticed by you guys, Yellowstone?
We've been battling it for, ever since they came on. I have recognized it when the prior landscape company was here, and we thought it was valves leaking. And so we kept having valves looked at, and they finally got out and really dug into it. And it's not valves leaking, it's just muck holding water. So just recently.
The reason why I ask it is it is a lot of money. I don't know if the previous board has heard about this or not.
No.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, what your plan is, any of that. My concern is that this is yet again something that we haven't heard about in a workshop that we need to vote on at a meeting that and I appreciate the demonstration, but it's something that I'd rather not surprise on. For that reason, I'm having some concern with it. $30,000 is in pennies. I know it needs to get done. That's not the question. It's how it's come up. So that's my 2 cents on this.
I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm not sure how much longer a workshop time would be spent than what they just did showing us.
And that's why I'm saying this situation is a little different.
Yeah.
But a little heads up of, hey, this is what happened. Next meeting, you might hear about this.
Well, what concerns me is other areas of Celebration, like Spring Park, that may be in the same situation.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Spring Park is not. It has Bermuda and it has great soil, and that's why you can walk on it right after a rain and not have any issues. The Great Lawn needs to be that same way and get down to good soil.
How about East Lawn then?
That's a brand new field.
East Lawn's good. Yeah, we don't have too many mucky, swampy areas, so we're in good shape.
All right.
Yeah.
I think what is important here is we're having, on September 10th, talking about the budget, but we're not talking about the replacement reserve expenditures on that. I think we need, I don't know exactly how you've done it in the past, but we need a day when we really, because we've had these questions come up a few times now, so we need a real good workshop where we talk about replacement reserves, what's really out there, and stuff like that, so we can think about it. And I'm hoping that
that would answer that.
I think if we knew a month ago that you were asking Yellowstone to dig into this, literally, just that in the management report would give us some warning sign that there's something on the horizon. I think
that's all I'm asking. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying it's not an issue.
I think it makes
$30,000 surprise is a $30,000.
I think it makes sense, and I think that Susan just took a note. So we'll go back. We always have a meeting the day after the board meeting to talk about how things went. So we'll talk about this and knowing what our projects are a little bit further out. Put maybe a little section in each department head's management report of future projects so that you can have an idea of what's coming up.
These things are going to happen.
Right.
We have an idea.
Is there any problem with having brand new sod and having everybody traipsing on it so quickly?
Not with Bermuda. You can talk on this if you'd like, Doug. He's the golf course expert, and Bermuda is golf course turf. So.
Yeah, once it grows in, which is pretty quickly for Bermuda, a couple of weeks, you can have foot traffic on it. As long as it's not lifting up, it'll root in pretty quickly.
It's about 2 to 3
weeks. If there's a large delay, do we want to wait past everything? I mean, if we have a sod delay?
Well, this is the timing that gets it done before the October festivals
like they
and
said, if
things.
they could get the sod, but I know the sod, the turf areas were having trouble and having some diseased grass. I just want to make sure we're okay.
It's been really wet, and all summer we've had trouble mowing it. Even with, we've had push mowers out there. We weeded in sections because it is soaked. And as Todd said, I said we've got a leak somewhere. We dug everything up. There's no leaks. But you got that layer, and it's just mush. And underneath is fine, because I've also thought at first, Celebration was a wetland. They filled it in. There's going to be wet areas. It'll drain fine when we get that, what we call a black layer, an organic matter layer out of there, and put new sod down. And speaking of other areas, North Village, there's some wet areas on those fields, and Founders Park is wet. I think we can remediate that, but it takes a long time. You aerate, poke holes, fill it with sand. And part of that aerates it, but also you're removing cores of that material, replacing it with sand, and over the years, you can kind of remediate that. the Great Lawn, we're getting ready to use it for stuff, and
I would say-
McAnally
Yeah, I would say
falls
that
down
that
the
could be a
mud.
problem. If we have rainy October, rainy November, then we could have residents standing in muck and water on those.
To me, and the only question I'd have is, I think we need to do it if forget a hurricane, let's just say there's a tropical storm. This is a better solution if we have a tropical storm in September, which is a very real possibility.
Yeah, a couple weeks before it starts going, it could be wet. The irrigation, I can tell you, has been off since first week of June. Shut it off, and I have not had to turn it back on yet. It just stays, and it rains every single day. So it's not the best solution. It's not something that's just going to come up, oh, now we need to do it over here. I'd like to get into a program which is in the scope. Aerating top dress is definitely part of our contract, and we're going to do it as soon as it dries out enough. We're going to get that done and then continue to do it. But this here is like, we hate to let it go, and I don't want to get 2 weeks before the events and, oh, yeah, sorry, it's wet, not much we can do now. So we waited the last minute, but I didn't realize we were going to have to rip it all out. It was, once we discovered what the real problem was, this was it, so.
Debbie may have alluded to this. Any issues with sod providers? Are we okay with?
It's been good lately. Getting Bermudian, a few days. And
so not an issue.
And I will tell you, right, it's maybe June and July we're having a week or two delay, but also this is a big job, and not to brag, Yellowstone's a big buyer sod from our vendors, and Celebration's big, so they will jump through some hoops for us.
I call the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for your demonstration.
Thank you very well. I brought enough for everybody.
I can get mine to Tony. She was supposed to get stuff from us, remember?
Can I just talk about the projects? Because we had a project workshop in the early part of January. And so knowing that we're cycling board members in March, we've decided that what we're going to do is start having those project meetings in April so that you, the new board, will kind of see the layout of what we're planning. And so in the fall, and I'm going to send you an email, David, I've got it almost ready to go, I would like to propose that we have a workshop to talk about what we're going to do in that first quarter, and that'll get everyone on the board up to speed with what we're looking at in early 2017. And then we'll...
19?
Yeah, 19. We're going backwards now.
It's been a long day. Makes sense.
Yes.
Do we need any part of a workshop before that time? Do we need anything between
Well,
now
why
and-
don't can we fill in the gaps with the management report first to get us to October, and then we'll do that.
Okay. Next item, motion to approve the monthly landscape management agreement by New Leaf Landscape in the amount of $23,568 annually, Savannah Square Service Area Operating Expenditure. Motion? Thank you, Brian.
Can you read the second part, though? Because this motion is
Yes.
contingent.
This motion is contingent upon Savannah Square resident consensus at meeting on 8/16/18.
Okay, so,
We got to have a second.
We need a
It needs to be
second,
updated.
and let's find out if we're...
Yeah, it's actually not stated correctly. Could you give him the correct language?
Yes. Well, we had 4 members show up to that meeting, 4 residences. And so now we've sent out an electronic vote that says, let us know what you want. So that vote actually closes on August 31st. So it will be contingent upon those that care in Savannah Square voting and letting us know what they want to do.
So the actual language should be, this motion is contingent upon Savannah Square resident consensus through electronic voting to be concluded on August 31st, 2018.
Okay. So the agenda will also be updated for future posting to reflect that.
Are you looking at me?
I'm looking at
I'm saying yes.
The minutes will. The
Rachel
agenda
and I-
doesn't need to. It's the minutes of what happened at this meeting.
I just
will
want the
reflect
motion to
that
be
properly.
read, but that,
hadn't seen that.
so that's the amended motion.
Okay, good. So we have the amended motion, and Jack was...
No,
I need to restate the motion. The motion is contingent upon Savannah Square residents' consensus through electronic voting on August 31st.
To be
concluding.
concluded by
August
31st.
Is that your motion then? Because it's...
That's a subset of the motion.
That's the motion, so I would make that motion.
Do you want to...
So Jax is making the motion now? The entire motion?
let him do that, because I didn't make a motion.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Brian.
I'm happy to let Jackson
Okay,
make
so-
the motion, and I'll second. so
And
we can
Brian
go to
is seconding
conversation.
Jackson's motion. Discussion.
Hello.
New leaf is what everybody wants. That's a good answer then? Are they, or you don't know?
Well, if I could give you a little bit of background, please. So they have had City Beautiful for about 4 years. That long ago, they decided they wanted a different, they came up with a design intent. This residents got together and had hired a different company to do their landscape, and they've had a different management company managing. This past year, at least, up to 2 years, there's been some residents complaining. Last year, I know that everyone was focused on the roof project that took place, so everything got pushed back a little bit. This year, I've had residents approach me about not being happy with City Beautiful. Our recommendation for management was to bring them back into the fold of CROA management for all the service areas, which is New Leaf. We've gotten positive feedback. They're happy. The residents are happy. I don't get hardly any complaints, if I get any. And when I look around, do my inspections, everything's per the scope. They're doing a great job. So that was our recommendation. The residents like that idea. They've even met with New Leaf a little bit on the side. So then we held a meeting on August 16th. So they expressed some desire to change New Leaf. So we had the meeting on August 16th. We sent out the communication. The residents came, but there wasn't a big turnout. And I did hear from residents saying, we won't be able to make it, we won't be there, we'll be out of town, et cetera, et cetera. And so to get everybody on board, there's 17 owners there, we're doing electronic voting to get an official vote on that.
Because you only had 4 people attend, right?
Yes, 4 owners show up. So that's why this is contingent on that vote. And if they vote that they want to switch to New Leaf, then we would already have this in place. And the reason we're trying to get this in place is because the Savannah residents feel like they really want to get their landscaping up to par. And they've met with Jacob, the ones who did attend. He's got a plan in place. We have, the landscape on the agenda too. So we can get moving in before the holidays and, get these residents happy.
And this is coming out of their reserve funds and everything, right?
Yeah. Yes.
This isn't a reserve item.
No, this is a
Operating,
budget.
but it's their money.
Operating, yes.
It's their funds, yes.
It's the landscape management line under operating.
And if they don't approve it, then
They
it
don't,
stays
then it
status
stays
quo.
the way it is.
Okay. So we would have an approved motion ready to go, should they approve it.
And
Yes.
let me just point out, though, it stays where it is with a subpar contract. The contract that we have for New Leaf was consciously written to have some teeth in it to where we could hold them accountable if they don't meet the scope of the contract. So we are recommending, I think one resident said that management wants this to happen. We absolutely are recommending that they go in line with what the other service areas are utilizing.
Is this the square that we're talking about? Or?
No, it's actually their
area.
Yeah, that's the service area. The square is the actual park.
Okay.
And that's a CROA asset as opposed to the townhomes, which are the service area.
Okay. Ready to call a question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Motion to approve the July 2018.
We got number 9.
Which
Number
is the same
9.
thing, pretty much.
Oh, motion to approve plant infill. Those could have been combined.
So move.
Yeah, so
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Second by Jack. Any further discussion on that?
Call the motion.
Brian and Jack.
No, it's Jack then
Brian.
Jack and Brian. Sorry.
A little dyslexia
Jack
here.
and Diane.
Little dyslexia over here. Everywhere. Any further discussion? Is it consistent with the same theme?
Yes, that was
All right.
the proposal.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now, motion to approve July 2018 Anschutz and Terry invoice for construction defect legal services in the amount of $10,102.71, divided among 3 different budget lines, different areas. We have a motion.
So move.
Second.
That was Jack and Brian.
I do have a question.
Okay.
The amount that's just for 2 months of bills, the 10,000?
1 month. It's July of
Just for 1
2018.
month?
Well, there's some, it's for June.
Oh,
It's a July bill
It says-
for services in June.
And this says it's
But
going
yeah.
to be every month. It's a monthly.
Well, what this is mostly for right now is because of the active leaks that are taking place. So Angus and Terry is working with Performance Roofing to address those. And so what happens is there's a process involved where they have to notify the roofer 10 days. They come out, and at this point they're doing water testing, to try to really figure out the problem here. So it's just a lot of administrative labor, but it's important to have the construction attorney do that because, as we're getting to the end of their time period, they're going to use this as we move forward into litigation. So.
And Suzanne and Susan, we have the opportunity to ask for these legal fees back, the attorney fees back through litigation. I believe that there'll probably be some conversations about settlement, but I believe that these totals continue to be added to what is being asked for as part of our settlement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, didn't you state, though, that it's more likely they'll come to a lesser amount, and that's why the residents need to cover a lot of this, or?
Go ahead.
I think that they said that when Paul Terry was here, he says it's a negotiation when it's all said and done.
Yeah, let's be careful about
That
too
was
much
an
what we talk
executive
about
session.
outside of executive
Right,
session.
right.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I did have the opportunity to review the bill and to look at it, and it's a large monthly bill. I would hope that we would be able to have a much smaller bill until we get to the point of actual mediation or litigation or whatever may come. So my hope is that this is an aberration and not a normal monthly billing that would be required. $10,000 for a month in legal services, when it breaks down, was really a lot. So if that could be communicated back to the attorneys and try and get some sense of what their anticipated fees would be over the next couple of months, I think that would be helpful.
We'll communicate that back to them.
Okay.
Is there an itemized bill?
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
She has
Is
it.
that the one you're talking about on the link?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
And it's all of June's bill that they filed July 31.
That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I think
Yeah, I
it's,
see.
All of June's billing statements, all those hours,
Yes.
filled a month later.
Do you want to look at it?
And of course, attorneys never overbill.
For the record.
It's a good living, right?
Any further discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the final trellis repairs of 10 trellises at Academy Row by Empire Works in the amount of $8,583. This comes from the Academy Row Meeting House Green Service Area Replacement Reserve Expenditure. Motion?
So moved.
From Jack and second from Debbie.
Where are you?
I didn't know to hog it.
You were slow. Any discussion? Do you want any presentation?
Sure, I can. So this is Academy Road Meeting House Green. This is a project that started in 2016. At the time, before I started, though, they couldn't get a lot of people to bid on this project. They ended up with this contractor. He was a one-man show, but he was a carpenter. He started the job. It got held up due to hurricanes and to some roofing and painting projects. And at this point, we haven't been able to get in contact with them anymore. So I've been talking to construction companies instead of just, a one-man show. And I did reach out to a couple. I really only got a bid from Empire Works. They are really eager to do the job. Their proposal was solid, and we're just going with half of them now to kind of get a sense. And then we're going to just do one trellis, actually, and see how the work quality is before we move into the other 9. But we want to get these 10 going, so because residents have been waiting for this work to be completed, and I know they'll be happy to get this done finally. And then once these 10 are done, we can move on to the last 10.
So this is $8,583 to do 10 trellises.
To do
not
half
just
of
one.
them.
Okay, I just wanted.
Which 10 is half of the total amount that's due.
Yeah.
for that service area.
I would say in Artisan Park, where the prior vendor did the trellises, right? Wasn't that the
That's
prior
right.
vendor, the one that it took forever? Am I right? Am I thinking about the right?
Yeah, that's not this vendor.
It's different.
Different.
Well, but Green Square, they did Green Square, did they not?
No. that was
No.
us.
Okay.
The trellis work that was done in Artisan Park took a very, very long time to do.
Yes, I know.
Do we have a completion date for these 10 trellises? I mean, that was a almost 6-month project to do 2 trellises. I mean, it wasn't that big a deal. So
it's a surprisingly bigger deal than what we would think a trellis construction is. I believe I mean, I'm not a trellis fixer. I don't know if that's the professional terminology for it. But some of the way it's constructed was a little bit complicated. I think maybe overcomplicated for what a trellis should be.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Well,
Could we ask for a date, though?
I can tell you the positive. My expectations are, a couple months. At the outside, I would say this vendor is very proactive. They've already looked and researched and found the bases that are missing on a lot of these trellises, so he already knows where to get them. He's told me and showed them to me. So he's ready to go. So, aside from the fact that I'm going to look at one trellis, depending on what the work is, and evaluate it for quality standards, after that, I know that they're eager to do the work, and they're a big company. They're going to move fast. But my expectations, and answer your question, would be 2 months.
2 months?
At the,
Can we communicate that to them?
And if they want to do the next 10?
Yes, definitely. Well, the next 10 will have to come back because
No, I
it will be
understand. But if they want to do the next 10, they do this in a timely way and a quality way.
Yes.
Good. Any further discussion? Calling the question, Jack? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Is that what that means?
I'm reading your mind.
Okay, well, here I am.
Also do this.
Next one, too.
Oh, you want to do this one? A motion to approve the roof repairs by Performance Roofing, the amount of $1,140 from South Village. Thank you.
Second.
That was Brian and Jack, I think, in that order. Any discussion?
I think you are familiar with Performance Roofing doing the active leaks.
Call the question. And you wrote that up. Thank you, Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Let's go.
Motion passes. Motion to approve change order for performance bond contractually required by Performance Roofing, amount of $4,650. Roseville Corner. Thank you.
Can we combine those two?
What's that?
13 and 14.
13 and 14. And then the second one was change order from shingle manufacturer by Performance Roofing, amount of $5,000, both Roseville Corner service area replacement reserve expenditure.
Move to approve both of them.
Thank you, Jack, for moving to approve
Second.
items 13 and 14. Thank you, Brian.
Call the question.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion to approve change order, item 15, change order from New Leaf Landscaping to include the courtyards of all but 3 residences in the amount of $9,720 annually, Roseville Corner, service area operating expenditure.
Can we get a little bit of, all but 3 residents? What's that mean?
So Brian's making the motion? So moved. Thank you. Thank you. Kevin?
Taking it back over on that side of the table.
Yeah,
I'll start looking over here now.
All right.
Okay, so coming into this position, Roseville Corner has courtyards, and it is my understanding from the owners too that they it wasn't included in the scope for New Leaf to take care of. I think, from what I understand, talking to residents, Davey was kind of doing some work on the side. So when we gave the proposal for New Leaf, these were the list of owners that wanted their court. They have the choice. Do you want to maintain your own yard, or do you want CROA management to take care of it? And these were the owners we had that did. Well, so it turned out that Davey was kind of doing some things on the side and taking cash handouts, and so then when it came to New Leaf was like, well, we're not, we don't do that, and so now the owners are like, well, we want our courtyards taken care of. So, the goal here is to add them into the scope, have them taken care of under the contract, have it done to the standards, do it the right way, and incorporate them all. There was just 3 owners that wanted to do it themselves.
Is that the way it's reading, or is it all but 3 wanted to have it done?
Yeah, all but 3. 3 owners want to do it themselves.
Okay, so the courtyards, are they in a private area?
Some of them have like half fence. Some of them have hedges.
How large are they? I mean, how much are we spending per courtyard per month? Because I know what I do with my grass and.
Well, there's 44 units in Roseville, so you're talking 41.
By 41. That's 20.
There's hedges back there, there's sod, there's irrigation management, there's replacement that we put into the budget. It's the same landscape management that we do for all the service areas. It's just that you're looking at it isolated, so it seems like a a large amount.
And the residents want it.
Well, the residents asked for their courtyards to be maintained.
At this price level?
Well, it's not affecting their assessments this year. When we go to the budget meeting, we will talk to the residents about what, we have discussed it before, actually, at the mid-year review.
This is not separately billed things to residents, it's each individual resident. Then.
No, no.
But it's,
what about the three that aren't?
But
getting
it's
done?
40. But $810 is divided by 41, so it's about $20 a resident, right?
Per month.
If that's the math, then yes.
I mean, that's fine. But if somebody was going to take care of mine for $20, I might do it a month.
But those three that are not getting it done, they're not.
Jack, what you're
paying
seeing
for
is
that
8,
portion.
10 times 12.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying it's for $20 a month. I probably wouldn't do it.
So Kevin's question is, do the 3 residents that are opting out still have to pay their assessments?
They still have to pay their assessments, yes. Because you're getting all your front yard taken care of. You still have an irrigation system that gets maintained.
Is this something that CROA
trees
wants
trimmed.
to get involved with, or is this something that maybe CROA turns around and says, New Leaf, we'll do yours for $20, make the connection and let them go ahead and do it? Because I just see 3 unit owners turning around saying, wait, I'm paying for it. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what I want to do. I'm not. I think $20 is awesome.
Aren't they the ones asking us, and we're just, they're asking for this, and we're just approving what they've requested, right?
The owners are asking for their backyards to be maintained. The 3 owners are saying, we asked every single individual owner, and the 3 said, we don't want New Leaf to maintain our backyards. We want. Some owners are gardeners, or they're very particular about their backyard.
They're going to maintain their own.
They
Did
just
all
want to
of them
do it
come to you,
themselves.
or did somebody come together and say, I talked to all my neighbors and we want this?
No, we reached out to everybody.
one, okay.
Well, first we talked about it at the meeting, but then we reached out individually to every owner and said, it is our understanding that Davey may have been maintaining some yards off the books. Would you want to have your backyard maintained by New Leaf?
I think it's important for you all to understand, though, that Susanna's meeting with the service area owners twice a year. She's meeting with them once starting in this next month in September for budget to talk about next year. But then she's also doing a mid-year meeting, which she just had over the last month, with every single service area and inviting all the homeowners to attend.
So I did talk about it at the meeting. Now, not every resident was there, but I did talk about it, and I did a...
You're good.
I
Question.
Here we cap.
Thank you.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Item 16, motion to initiate the finding process for 46 non-compliance items through notification of the Covenants Committee.
So moved. Second.
Thank you from Brian Chakras, the second.
Brian, you got dinner plans?
Any discussion on that? And it is still 46 that has not been adjusted.
No, you're getting the new list right now. It's
Oh.
27.
27
minutes.
27?
She's been working all day.
Can we adjust
All day.
Amended to 27.
In fact, I got reprimanded for bugging her at one point today. She said, leave me alone, I'm working.
27.
So that you inspected everything, this is what's
Every
left,
single
really?
one.
You were good.
Call the question.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Motion to approve 4
And just for the sake of making a comment, I sent an email to the board and copied a few other people today about getting the board books up quickly. This is a great job. I love the piece of paper, and I'm perfectly happy with this being handed out if we could get the board books quicker. So
This should be the only one that's
because
held up.
this is great, just like this.
Because this is done, this is...
She has to do this.
No, and you did a yeoman's job. Yeoman job, sorry.
I get it right.
Yeah, this is...
Potato.
Thank you.
And we had agreed previously as a board to have any comments in by Monday. I think that was a
But
prior...
I'm just saying Rachel enforces it and pushes that button and we roll. Okay.
So I think we've approved that now. Motion to approve 4 CROA intent to lien letters to owners delinquent more than one assessment.
So moved. Second.
Good job.
Who is it?
Brian and Jack.
Oh, that was Brian and then Jack.
The rest of us can go home.
I thought Brian was first.
I beat him.
Who'd you beat? One's getting
This table's leaving.
Any discussion?
Are you guys even going to be involved in this?
Let them take it. It's cool. Brian and Jack show.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 18, Vaughn, motion to approve one service area intent to lien. You don't want to make it? To owners delinquent for more than one assessment. I'm looking at this side. Anyone would like to make that?
It's only because that side's hurting right now, that's all.
Neck hurts?
I'll make the motion.
Oh, they're standing up.
So
Vaughn
moved.
is making the motion. Thank you.
That was Vaughn.
Second.
We have, Kevin is making the second.
It's 20-1.
Discussion on this.
Call the question.
Thank you. Questions called. Any, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion approved. 2 attorney recommended write-offs totaling $28.79.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Debbie.
Nobody seconded.
You got, your quota's up. You're up. That was second by Vaughn. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve fee waiver requests numbers 1 and 2 from homeowners in the amount of $93.08 and deny request number 3.
So move.
That was from Jack. Anyone from this side want a second, or Debbie?
Second.
Thank you. Brian is the second.
And the denial of number 3 was because they've had more than their 2 over the past 5 years.
Right. And that was just one thing I wanted to see in that little chart, just to say 0 or,
Right.
just to be very clear what the management recommendation was. I see it in the action item, I didn't see it in the.
Correct.
Okay.
So 1 and 2 are waived, and number 3 is not.
That is the motion.
That's the motion.
To waive only, actually, you're only waiving one, waiving 1 and 2 and
Yeah.
and denying request number 3. Any further discussion? The documentation was good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, call the question.
Thank you, Jack, or Brian, whoever said that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next last item, motion to approve one payment plan? Motion? That's from Debbie?
Second.
Second from Jackson.
I'm troubled.
Okay?
I mean, I will vote in favor of it. However, I'm troubled the number of payment plans that the individual has had.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I read this afternoon, and I was like, it almost felt to me like we were being gamed repetitively. And so,
Well, I would like, I know management has said that she communicates with them all the time.
And they've completed their prior payment plans, so sometimes people get in difficult positions and they just need a little leniency.
And Rachel's had conversations.
Rachel has a conversation.
Well, Christina actually has, but I'd like you to pay attention to the very small balance here. And sometimes people do run revolving, and we would like to get them set up to where if you pay this certain amount each month ahead of time, you wouldn't end up in this position. But usually we end up right back here doing another payment plan, and it's paying the bill.
so for lack of a better analogy, some people go credit card to credit card and pay really high interest rates because they don't manage well. Are you saying that's the story? In a kind of way?
It's kind of the story. I mean, I don't know a lot personally here, but we've got a couple people who stay on payment plans.
So it is your recommendation that we say yes?
But they're paying any interest and late fees on top of this as part of it. They're not asking you to waive anything. So essentially, you're just reframing how
And
they're
it is a
paying.
very small balance, and it is how they manage to get it paid.
The alternative to this is
Not
it
paid.
doesn't get paid and even more interest and even more late fees.
Thank you. Brian calling the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Last item, motion to approve the annual support contract for RecPro by RC Systems, the amount of $3,800 from CJC operating expenditure. That's from Debbie, and second from?
I'll second it. I don't have the, where's that at?
It was added on.
It was added on, and the documentation was...
It was originally in there.
It was originally in there, yeah.
Right.
You don't have that as your last time?
No.
It's on the original.
Certainly was Brian.
Yeah, it's got to be Jack.
Oh, it didn't follow through with the rest of the stuff. Printing it
You had a motion and a second, right?
Jack was the second.
Okay.
Jack was the second.
You don't need an explanation?
No.
The documentation was in the print copy, not the online version.
No, it's on the online. It's just
It is online? It wasn't last
my
week.
sequencing, I didn't follow it.
You just have to...
I did.
You had to go back to the agenda and then click on
Which
it.
I did, but, okay.
I call a question then.
Okay, question's been called. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Board comments?
I just have one.
Thank you, Vaughn.
The Celebration News had an article in there about one of our former high school students.
Okay.
Sarah Stelwag, I hope I pronounced that name, Celebration High School Class of 2014, recent graduate of Georgetown University, was a Fulbright Award recipient. And I'd like to have the board congratulate her for that. It's a nice feather in our cap here in town.
Thank you. Thank you for noting that.
That's awesome.
Any other board comments?
Quickly, we know we've got September 10th. I have had requests from people that getting them the information on Friday, September 7th is mighty late on the calendar. Steve and I agree. We'll see if we can get it out faster. We started with a late date, so we would set expectations low and then we could exceed it. But I do thoroughly encourage you to bring your laptop, or otherwise you will go blind. And at that meeting, I do think we're going to slug through the mud. So if you get the stuff on the 5th to the 6th, look at the big picture. You can play with it some, but as just using an oral example of one of the things we're going to face as a challenge is we got the athletic fields coming on, and they've started to go through and look at the additional expenses of the athletic fields. There's going to be no good, cute, or quick way to do this. So come prepared for that.
And I would just add to that the budget worksheets are intensive. There's a ton of information there. It's going to be easier understood when I go over it with you. Brian's going to give you a big picture of where we're at, and then I'm going to go through, like he said, slugging through the mud, each GL line, so you can see detail by detail of what we put in there. And we itemize the details for each GL line. And it's a lot more clear this year, the way these new worksheets are set up. You'll see the Jeffrey Mallon contract. You'll see the Albert Riddle contract. Everything's detailed in the lines.
What I recall from last year, so maybe it's different this year, there were
looks different.
Dozens and dozens of tabs,
yeah,
30 to 50.
So we've changed it from tabs that are spread out to categories, and it's just the spreadsheet's very long now.
Okay.
So there's multiple GL lines under one tab.
Okay.
Lot of information, a lot of information to go through. And you have two budgets. You'll have a CJC and a CROA budget to look at.
I have one quick item, and I'm hopeful that it's quick and easy. Communication has seemed to be, at least we heard it yesterday at the CDD meeting, and we hear it often a lot here, where people aren't aware of dates, this, that, the other. On one of my walks the other night, I was looking and I saw, we have our boards, our message boards at the different clubhouses, between Heritage Hall, whatever the case is. If possible, when our pool monitor goes around, could we go ahead and just tack those up there to say that we're doing all that we can about getting information out there? So maybe parents and their kids are going up to the pool and they can see there's an upcoming meeting going on. I just want to say that we are continually putting our best foot forward at all times, and even extend that to the CDD. If they would like to go ahead and send it over to us in an email, maybe our guys could go ahead and post it. So just one small little step towards.
You're mainly concerned about meeting notifications, right?
Just when the workshops and the meetings happen,
okay.
Just to.
Or even just the schedule for the coming month. We're going to have the budget workshop, and we're going to have town hall.
Think it over, whatever you think is best, but I think that's a resource that we could use. It doesn't cost anything, and it might get some more screaming faces.
In whatever format you use, you can use it on the website. You can use it on the current website too.
I think that's it.
Good call.
I almost think of meetings, when I think of calendars, I think of it in two different buckets. One is like the meeting, like our board meetings, our workshops, all the committee meetings. When is ARC? When is covenants? Etc. So all of that. And then I think of all the fun stuff.
Every day of the week.
We'll see what
the movies, the events.
This tonight's meeting was very funny.
I thought you were talking about this fun stuff.
There's fun stuff, and then there's fun stuff.
Compared to last night, this was boring.
That was a good one. All right.
Any other board comments before the last item? Jay? Which says adjournment.
I'm going to let Brian have this one.
So moved.
Adjourned.
And Jack seconds.
Thank you for a good meeting. Thank you. Less than 2.5 hours.
2.5. I thought we were shooting for an hour.
I wasn't here. You did it in 2 hours.
It was, hour and a half. Hour and a half.
I used to have a standing offer. I'd buy the first round at the tavern.